Go ahead, David so McCann, before I start.
Well, I was just going to say hello to the people who are watching this later, which in the Zoom sphere does tend to be the lion's share of folks. I just want to say thank you to those that are coming here live. It's always really nice to just be in the same space with you.
It really is.
Zoom space, but still, you can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to spotlight the two of us, and in the meantime, keep using the chat to ask your questions. And Hi, it's good to see you. To ask your questions, and we have the questions that you sent in advance. We'll do those first, and then we'll do the chat questions after that. So let me spotlight our Lisabeth, and then okay, here's the two of us. Very good.
Oh, my. Hi, sweet
Okie dokie.
faces.
So,
All right,
Lisbeth, you're going to
ready?
pick the questions.
I am. We're going to start with questions about characters. And the first question has to do with Junkyard Tales from Carter. Carter's in Alabama. And Carter wants to know, why is Georgia Bean so caring? Georgia Bean
Yeah,
is,
she really is.
I'm going to give some context to who Georgia Bean is quickly.
Georgia Bean is, I mean, we always describe her as the kindly rat. So Georgia Bean, I should really kind of step back a little bit and just say that the Junkyard Tales, along with Martin and Sylvia, were stories that were told to our two boys when they were teeny. And so before they went to bed every night, they would get one or the other. And I think we actually even alternated. And Junkyard Tales was used for different reasons than Martin and Sylvia. Martin and Sylvia was very clearly, to us, versions of them. Even though two boys, it was Martin and Sylvia stories. And Martin is very much like our oldest, and Sylvia is very much like our youngest. Junkyard Tales incorporated lots of really interesting characters, which didn't originally have those names. Oops.
Sorry. That was me.
What, you didn't like the answer,
I
Elizabeth?
know,
You're just
I'm
like,
so
stop
sorry.
talking, David.
I was trying to let someone in and I
Oh, okay.
just muted you.
All right. You
Sorry.
do you. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, but that's a good cue though, because maybe I'm going on a little bit. So let's get right to the answers. So Georgia Bean, I feel like was an emergent, made up name that just came up, and I tried to figure out who Georgia Bean was as I was voicing the character.
Mhm.
Because she had that kind of southern accent, and it was Georgia Bean. Actually, I think we even started with Georgia Bean as a name, and then the voice came
Oh,
through,
yes.
and she was so. Is that what you remember?
I do.
Okay. And then the voice was just so soothing. And then I think the notion of all the mice came after that. So truly, good. Is it Carter? Carter, good intuiting that the whole character came out of kindness.
Yeah.
The kindness really is what motivated the character, and she's very maternal and a real caregiver of the junkyard.
Yeah, totally. And Carter, related to the mice, also wants to know, how many mice are there in the junkyard in your imagination there, David
By
Wilmington?
by golly, I'm not so sure. We're going to go to the experts on that one. So if you have counted the mice in the
Yeah.
stories, please put them in the chat.
Okay.
So
So
if
yeah, you
anybody
all tell
that's
us,
here,
how many mice do you think are in the junkyard? Now I'm going to
some.
give you a tricky one. This is another junkyard
Okay.
one. He had several questions about junkyard tales. And this one's a little, okay, we ready?
Okay.
Why is Spiro always abandoning Ben when Ben is trying to protect him? And I was like, I didn't even know that was a dynamic.
I didn't pick up on that,
I know.
but actually, if you think about Spiro, um, Spiro is, the fun-loving skunk, and so is sort of the like the mayor of the junkyard. Not really exerting power, but just knows everybody, is friendly with everybody, and at the same time, those skunks can be very aggressive and territorial. That's not really Spiro's way of being in the world. He's also quite kind, and I think might be a little sensitive.
Yeah.
So my guess is Ben, who's genuinely ready to do whatever is needed to care for his friends, will not hesitate. And I think Spiro sometimes, in situations which might be a little, that the energy might rise, the energy might get a little bit intense.
Yep.
Um, I think Ben is in his element in that instance, is ready to just do what needs to be done. Whereas I think it could possibly be a little confusing for Spiro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't know if anybody ever relates to that. There are people that when in an emergency, it's almost like something clicks and they're ready to go. And other people, emergencies, no thanks. It's not really my thing. It reminds me of the kids that, we have, the one that Sylvia is based on has become a nursing student and is the
You're
person that you want.
referring to our son
Yes,
that is
right.
now
Not Sylvia,
21,
but
21 that is now a nursing student. Yeah.
and great in an emergency. Really steps forward. It's like suddenly something gets turned on, and I think Ben's a lot like that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. We're going to move to Libby and Dish now.
Okay.
Let's see. When Libby talks to Dish, does she speak in, no, it's really does Dish speak in English that only Libby hears?
Hmm.
How does Dish speak to Libby? What language is it? Is it only Libby that can hear it?
Well, I'll ask this of you, Lisabeth. So, you know, all the pets
Mhm.
that we have shared over the years, I have caught you having conversations with many of them. And so you'll ask the dog or cat a question and will appear to receive an answer. And so how are you receiving that information?
I receive the information in my mind and in my body. It's just sort of a knowing. It's like a knowing of what they're trying to tell me. It doesn't come out as sound that anybody else could perceive. It comes out as like an inside, like, oh, I just know
Yeah.
you know, are feeling a certain way. I need a certain thing. So yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah.
probably it. Yeah,
Did you know that Elizabeth, one of Elizabeth's many nicknames
is
is Libby?
living. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a
I'm very
crossover there.
sensitive like Livy is. So I
Yeah.
know
And
the living dish stories I think were written for me actually.
well, they're for, sensitive people that, it's a real gift to be that sensitive because you can talk to animals and there's certain
Yeah,
information that you get that others aren't noticing.
yeah,
And you've got to protect yourself. You've got to put some things in place so that
yeah.
you can be in the world because it can be noisy.
And I have to carry around my backpack or really my purse filled with what is her backpack called again? But filled with all the things that I could possibly need in a day.
Oh
If you saw
yeah.
my backpack, my bag, it's just like Libby's backpack.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
very much.
You
Should
ready
we
for
do
the next
another
one?
and then see if there's any in the chat?
I do want to see if y'all have any questions. Does Libby have a dad?
Golly, I don't know. I think that I don't think it's ever been
Mentioned.
referenced, has it?
She has a dad that's active in her life.
Oh, it doesn't seem so.
No.
Yeah. No,
No,
I
just
don't. I don't think so. And I'm not sure that. I mean, that's not anything that Libby experiences. It's not a question that she has. It's not something. But I'm sure at some point in Libby's life, it will be something that she'll learn about. Maybe I don't know.
yeah,
We'll have to
yeah.
see if it's important to Libby. Yeah.
Actually, can I ask one more? Because this one's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Is Libby's mom a friend of Martin and Sylvia's mom? Is there any overlap between those two? And actually, and there was another one that says, are the Sparkle Story worlds connected? For example, do Martin and Sylvia live in the same world as Libby and Dish or the Dory Horde? So that's a good one. I mean, other than they live in Sparkle Land, which is its own little universe, right, of story themes and story feelings
Yeah.
and story experiences.
I feel like um
We know that
I feel
Libby's a
like they went
city.
to the city. I feel like that Martin and Sylvia's family went to the city and that there was some overlap.
We did have a Junkyard Tales, Martin and Sylvia.
Yes. But I feel like wasn't there like at a farmer's market?
Oh, no.
Um
A
I think
terrible?
there was like a city farmers market, and there was
Oh,
a little bit of an interaction that took place there. I
oh.
wonder if anybody knows that's here. Does anyone recall either a Martin and Sylvia story where they go to a farmer's market and they interact with someone in Libyan Dishes world or vice versa? Does that sound familiar to anybody? There,
Also, do you have questions that you want to add? Because we're really happy to jump in and answer. Or if you
yes.
want to raise your hand, right, and jump on and discuss with us, we're happy to hear live, your thoughts live.
Um, can
You-
you go ahead, Elizabeth?
It says, can you please tell us what story has Martin and Sylvia and the junkyard together? My brother remembers that Libby and Martin and Sylvia met somehow. Let me find the sparkle stories with
Well, I know the junkyard one because they go to the junkyard looking for something. I think it's for inventions.
yeah.
And they encounter the sergeants there, and they interact with the warden, and they're not experiencing the animals as talking to them, but
Mhm.
it's they see the skunk, they see the cat, they see the animals that are there. But I don't remember there being an interaction.
Yeah,
Do we have experts that are here?
I can tell you the name of the it's called Sylvia and the Junkyard Porcupine, and it's for Daddy's artwork. It's they need to go get pieces for Daddy's artwork. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's
very
called
good.
Sylvia and the Junkyard Porcupine. If you want to listen to it, and let's
Um,
see.
so the Nora and brother, can you wave your hands if you're interested in having a conversation about this Libby and Martin and Sylvia story? It would mean unmuting and us having a quick chat. We would need your brother, of course, because there's a suspicion there. Are you open to that? If you wave your hands, then I'll unspotlight us and we can talk about it. Or are you putting something? I am, but brother isn't here. Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's have a quick chat, Nora. Let's see what we can figure out. So I'm gonna unspotlight us, and we can talk about it. All right. Hello, Nora. Hi. So that's not your brother upside down behind you?
No, that's my friend.
Oh, okay. Hello, friend. So what do you remember, Nora? Tell me what you can recall.
Well, my brother he's very smart and he very like analyzes things very well.
Hmm.
And he was remembering at some point that there was something he thought was a correlation between um Libby's mom and Martin and Sylvia's.
Okay, so it was the connection between the moms.
I think so. I think at some point somehow it was mentioned, and my brother was like thinking that that could be somehow like related,
Yeah, this
or
does
that
sound familiar.
they could have, I don't know, he picked up on a little clue or cue or something. He was going, oh, maybe that's Libby's mom or whatever, something.
Got it. So there was like a hint. That sounds about right, Elizabeth. That sounds like something that
Yeah.
that would have happened.
And they would enjoy each other. I know you can just know from knowing them from the stories that those two.
Yeah, they would have. They'd be friends.
Yeah, for real. Do you have a question at all, Nora?
No, mine was about the Sparkle Story worlds that I put in.
Oh, meaning the one. Let's go see the one about how do they all overlap. That's a great question.
Yeah, yeah.
I see it now. Great, thank you.
Can you so I'm gonna mute you, Nora, while I answer that
Okay.
question. Okay. Thank you for helping us out though. So what was the question, Elizabeth, about the worlds?
It's just so Nora's question as written was are the Sparkle worlds connected? Do they live in the same world as Livy and Dish of the Dory Horde? That's what we were
Mhm.
starting to answer.
Yeah, less so. I do think that we've had a few crossover. Oh, wait a minute. Now, how do I
I-
there we go. Okay, great. Um, the crossovers happened later. Initially, we were very strict about them having their own worlds. I believe that there were invitations for that, and I think I was the one that was resistant to having crossover, just
Mhm.
kind of protecting that space as being just for Martin and Sylvia and the junkyard just for that. But there was such delight with the crossover. And there have been a few instances, now that I'm remembering, where Martin and Sylvia have access to the Windward Ho stories, the books. Does that sound familiar to you, Elizabeth?
No, but that's cool. That
I'm
would be
pretty sure that that was the case. Now, I don't think that's the case with the How to Be Super, and I don't think that's the case with Dory Horde. Though there's another. It might even be Dory Horde that was somebody was reading the Windward Ho books.
okay. Okay.
Um,
Yes, I
uh,
think it
yeah,
might be in a different series. I love those
yeah,
little team crossovers. Okay, can we move along?
sure.
Because I have lots of questions. Do you want to? I'm going to ask you a few more about characters, and then we're going to move on to questions for you as a storyteller.
Okay.
There are two Martin and Sylvia questions. One comes from, both come from Miriam, actually. Thank you, Miriam. Where do Martin and Sylvia live? And why is one sheep next door in Martin and Sylvia sometimes called Rosebud and sometimes called Roseberry? And also, Mr. Brown sure does play a lot of instruments. Yes, he does. So where do they live, and what is with the sheep with the similar names?
Yeah, well, you know the answer to the second one, but the first one is vaguely New England, but these stories came about when we lived in Keene, New Hampshire. So there's a lot of southern New Hampshire in the Martin and
The
Sylvia
house is
stories.
based on the house we lived in southern Vermont before we had kids. The house
Yes.
with the solid windows, with the upstairs. I thought the
Oh, I
one,
never put that together.
at Westminster West with the upstairs and all the windows.
Really?
Yeah, that's what
Wow.
I always
Okay.
thought.
I never really got that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then as
Um,
Martin and Sylvia expanded, I think it was inspired by the house up in Charlotte with the seasonal brook and the apple trees,
yep.
and yeah, it was
Yep,
very
very much.
yeah.
So New England, and the thing with the names changing, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with many instances in which somebody's, I think the guy who owns the bakeries changed names a few times too. There are, I don't remember, unfortunately, many of the stories. And so when it's time to write a new story, I'll just try to remember, and then I'll pop the name in there. And we have a person who is more valuable than gold that is a part of Sparkle Stories. Her name's Anne. And she's the one that keeps all the details in her consciousness or has systems to figure out what they are.
Actually,
Um,
can I tell the story of Anne coming along?
yeah,
Okay, so Anne did exactly what you did, Miriam, in that Anne, so she was a listener. She was one of our first listeners with her daughter. And she would write in over time and she would be like, excuse me, in story number 4 of the original Martin and Sylvia, the librarian was named Charlotte. And in story number 27 of At Home with Martin and Sylvia, the library was named Cynthia. And she did this over and over. And finally I said, would you like a job?
right.
And then
Oh
we
boy.
hired her to
Yeah,
listen to stories and to make sure, because we were so busy creating so much so fast that we didn't always track those details. And so she started tracking that for us. I hope you don't mind me telling that story. And she's with us to this day. She's been with us 14 years. Now she's a longtime editor. We called her continuity, which is kind of a film term.
yeah.
Yeah.
Essential, really essential. Because there's, I don't know, what's the latest count? How many stories are there?
1,517, I think.
It's a lot of stories. Okay.
Wow,
Yeah,
nice.
it's a
Okay,
lot
are
of
you ready
stories.
we're gonna move. So yeah, and actually I wanted to say down here, if you look in the chat, Anna has said Martin and Sylvia listened to Willoughby Tree during the Easter series.
That's right. Right.
Hmm.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah. And everybody was like, that was cool. Okay. Moving along to questions for you as a storyteller. Um, these are both from Leslie. Do you ever draw inspiration from real life events? And if yes, which? And like what inspires all the events that happen? So there's curiosity about like, is this coming from real life?
Absolutely. So initially, the stories were coming out of our own experience, inspired by our own kids and friends of kids. But then, pretty early on, people would email in and say, "Do you have a story about this or this?" And we would respond to get more information. And then people would. Most of the stories really are responsive. So events would take place, in the world, and someone would write in and say, do you have something that we could use to talk to our children about this or that? And if we didn't have it, which was often the case in the early days, we'd create something, often very quickly. And that's kind of what was a defining part of the business model, was that we could respond quickly. So they're very responsive, the stories, very much tied to real life, even if the characters and the narrative are fanciful. The So Many Fairies are all connected to real things that we as people work through. Definitely the case with by Thistle by Thimble. And then there'll be special packages that will happen with, a big event that happens in the world, something with the weather, something with politics, something with, just some struggle that takes place that we want to give parents a starting point for being able to talk about it.
Okay, we have a new friend that's joined us. Yay! People coming in. Okay. Next, these are such good questions, y'all. All of them are so good. This is from Ava. How do you manage to change your voice for all your characters? We love your voice and stories. So how do you do that?
I mean, it's just super fun. I really feel like everybody that's here has a few voices that they do. It sounds like I am doing them rapid fire. One of the things about the process is that I do have time to work on the voice when we're recording, and then we can take out the parts where I'm working on it. That said, I know the characters pretty well, so as I'm going through and knowing which part of the story, I am able to retrieve them, and they sound like there's a thing that in the classes that I teach about storytelling that has to do with really kind of feeling it in your body. Most of the storytelling comes out of a body experience rather than it being like a literary experience. So I'll feel Spiro, and if you feel that kind of size, he's a big sardine fan. If you feel that size, and you kind of pull
Do
this
that.
in,
Let's
you
fill
could
that size.
starts
We're,
to, yeah, just like feel your belly kind of big, and life is fun, and then slowly it'll come up, and the voice is up in here, and hi, hey, hello, how's it going, and it can be
ah,
there, and you can feel it. Whereas you've got this sort of busy energy that's happening with, say, Lil Mama, or for that matter,
Kelly.
Sally.
Yeah.
And if you feel it in your body, the voice will follow. Um, those are tricky, though, the junkyard ones, where there's so many different characters, one right after the other, and the mice all have different sounds to their voices.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely takes practice, but if you're interested in doing voices, then I would say start with pretending, feel in your body what it might be like for that character to feel,
Yeah.
and then the voice will usually come out of that.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. Okay. Are the stories pre-written and read or created in the telling? And this is one of our favorite things to talk about is David's storytelling style.
So it's both. The stories I find, and I do this with all my writing, including academic writing, if I speak it out loud, I have access to more information. So what I mean by that is that we as human beings have been speaking for a very long time. And so our bodies and our brains are made to talk, or to communicate, sort of real time. The whole reading and writing part is more recent. So that's why many of us struggle with writing and reading, and less so with communicating out loud. Some of us struggle with communicating out loud. That's, for me, it comes easier to talk out loud. So when I'm doing a new story, I'll make it up on the spot and just say it out loud. That's step one. Then, like I was talking about with it being in your body, when I talk it out loud, when I tell the story out loud, there's some sort of body memory for it. So then I can write it down. I'll write it down, and then it goes into a process that is much more collaborative, because at that point we have many different minds. So Lisbeth will be involved, Anne will be involved, others will be involved to help kind of craft it a bit, because my first story has all the feelings, has all that experience in an embodied way, but it doesn't necessarily come across in a way that's understandable from the words.
Mhm.
So that's where Lisbeth and Anne and others will help craft it.
Mhm.
And then I'll have that. Then it's time for me to actually tell the story and record it. But while I'm recording it, it is very common for me to change certain words, certain phrases, take certain things out because I'm telling it again, and once again it becomes very much an embodied experience. And
Yeah,
sometimes when you're in your body, I know you know this, Lisbeth, that um, things that make sense up here, your body is going to win out in that argument.
that's what
So
I
you
said.
try to like think your way, like it should be this way, but your body knows the truth. And
That's what I
so
said.
that's the end of it, is that it gets spoken, and then there'll be mistakes here and there, and we have an audio editor that would then craft that and take out the mistakes when I say
Yeah, so there's
Rosalie and
lots of
stuff.
stages to it. And I'll say too, from my part, that my favorite thing on the planet to do, one of them anyway, is to create like transformative experiences for people. So I love to when David and I collaborate together to make sure that our stories or our series are going to start you in one place and land you in another one. The characters start in one place and they evolve and they land in another place. And we're going to take you on that journey of like, it's often like this, right? And then you, in the end, it's like you get to be everybody's a different person. The characters have evolved, and hopefully you have too by the time you're done listening. So that's,
Yeah.
if I were to say if I contributed anything to the stories, or if I contribute anything to the stories, it's that.
Yeah, the big picture and the context, because I'll get lost in the minutia of the moment
Yeah.
and
Yes.
kind of lose the big map. And
Yeah.
Lisbeth is holding the
Come
map,
in and be like,
not only,
oh,
yeah.
what about this? Or yeah.
And,
Anyway.
and also within the culture, you're kind of the flame bearer of the sparkle culture. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll come up with a story or an idea that
No.
is a good idea and a good story, but just not for sparkle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally, totally. That's
right.
right. Okay, what character do you think about the most, and what characters do you identify with the most? And I'll start the answer that where, like I said earlier, Libby is based on me, or it was written to support me on some level, and so I really do identify a lot with Libby. I also really appreciate both the parents in Martin and Sylvia. Still, we sometimes, we joke that they're based on us, but they're so perfect, Martin and Sylvia's parents, and so inspired. But even I would use them as like inspiration to sort of fuel my parenting because they're so delightful. I also really like thinking about the all the kids and their talents in the Dory Horde, because they each have their gift that they get to bring to the world, and sometimes they struggle with that gift. But I just love the like idea that everybody's got a gift and everybody brings it, and together they make the world a better place. And so sometimes I like to think about, well, what are my superpowers? What are my gifts? And Dory Horde is a great way into that for me.
Yeah.
You, David Soul McCann. And what about you all? This would be quite a great thing for you all to share in the chat if you can. Like, what character do you think about the most, and what one do you identify with the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's so many, and I feel tenderly about every single one of them. Even there are some characters in some of the stories that are maybe less likable by some people, but they're all dear to me. I can say that whatever story I'm working on is the one that, they kind of inhabit my imagination. At the moment, I'm thinking a lot about the Junkyard Crew. But also, there's one of the storytelling courses for the mid grade is all Windward Ho. So they're the kids make their own pirate characters, and clearly they're all inspired by the Windward Ho crew, and they know the different positions because of those stories. So I often think about the Windward Ho crew as well. So at the moment, you're catching me at a very Windward Ho and Junkyard Tales, but who knows, in a few months or in a year, who's going to be in my imagination.
Yeah. Um, Anna says 100% on Martin and Sylvia's parents, and the recent email about not comparing their perfection was so awesome, right? Yeah, thank you for saying. I know, because we're real humans and they are not. But they can at least be models, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. If anybody else wants to add an answer, I would really, really love to hear what you have to say. All right. We have so many questions yet, and we're already at 4:30.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Junia asks, who draws the artwork for the stories? Who could that be? The multi-talented David Sewell McCann is also an artist.
Well, it's I do the initial sketch, and then there's other. It's sort of like with the stories. I'll do the starting place, and then others are involved in crafting and coloring and putting in context again. I always have a quick sketch that I'll send to Lisabeth, who will say, "Love it."
And let's
Maybe
add
put
it.
a da 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 in it, and
Yeah,
then then we'll
elaborate.
we'll adapt it. So
Yeah.
most, in my experience, the best things are all collaborative.
Collaborative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. Um, Avila wants to know how many Sparkle stories have you written? I want to make sure that you heard that it was, I think we have 1,517 right now. A few
That's
of those
that's
were not
amazing.
written by us. A few of those were collaborations, but all right. Let's see. Your favorite Martin and Sylvia story, David, go.
Daddy's toe.
I was gonna guess that.
I
Yeah.
don't know why. I don't know that it's my favorite, but that's the first one that came to mind was Daddy's
Yeah.
toe. I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
people talk about that one.
yeah, yeah. And
That one's
Daddycation too. Daddycation when Daddy takes
Yeah,
over.
that's a popular one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like ferry boat races because it's just so charming about the spring brook and the making of the boats, and I've just always loved that
No,
one.
we talk about this whole ideal picture of the parents, but I think one of the things about Daddy's toe is that he complains.
Yeah.
He's sort of miserable, and I am not a great patient. When I'm not feeling well, when I stub my toe or something like that, I'm kind of miserable, and so I think we let a little bit of that show
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
in Daddy's toe. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you all have favorite stories, please do share. Anything we're talking about, I would love to hear your answers to the same questions. Now, Anna asks if there have been any interest in developing the stories visually. Anna, we've chosen against that because of the idea that when a child listens to a story without visual representation, without, particularly screen media like animated things or things in motion, their imaginations go to work to create that world. And that's a really like highly brain building neural network building experience. So it's good for children's brains. And we've always stuck by that because and it's come up over and over and over. And we sometimes think about making early readers or that sort of thing, but, and like, it still comes up. But at the moment, we're sticking with audio only just because it is such a nourishing experience for kids. Um, I'm so glad had some things ruined for me as a kid because of that, right? I know I've had that experience too, like Chronicles of Narnia. Did you want to say anything more about that, David, before I
Well,
move on?
just that the drawings are very sketchy for that reason as well. Like the Martin and Sylvia, they all have circle heads and very simple things so that your imagination can really fill in a lot of the details.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. I'm trying to keep track because there's so many. How did you plot out how to be super? Was it all mostly planned? Oh, no, this is Athena Scott, excuse me. Was it all mostly planned out from the beginning, or did you create it spontaneously as you went along? And part two was missions part of your vision for how to be super initially, or did you get the idea? If the latter, what inspired it? That's a big question. That's a big question. But it's a great storyteller question because it's like, yeah, giving insight into how a writer or how creators build a thing is really interesting.
Well, that's coming from a writer. So Athena
Okay.
is a writer and a storyteller. Has
Cool, Athena.
take,
Hi.
taken the courses. They've been a part of
Hi.
hey, they've been a part of the Sparkle journey for a long time,
Cool.
and
That's cool.
and so well, this won't surprise you, Athena, that Uh, no, it wasn't planned out. So the there was a lot of trust. So I'm pretty sure, Athena, that you learned the different storytelling strategies, and one of them is called the connector. And the connector has trust that all things are going to work themselves out um, when you're engaging your intuition, when you honor the hunch. So it's there were the first, the framework of the characters was what was in place at first. That and the setting, Austin, Texas. I think we were living there when it was first formed. And then it was this openness to the magic of the place and noticing strange things and connecting the strange things that I was noticing while going on long walks to this and to this and to this. And actually, Athena, remarkably, there was, as I was going downtown and noticing all this reference to Greek mythology, saw a healthcare place called Athena Healthcare. And I thought, wait a minute. And so decided to go all in, trust that the story was in place, and it turned out to be. So it was trusting the story as it went. It unfolded in front of me. And by the end, Lisabeth and the others hated this because I didn't know how it was going to end. And we were launching stories, trusting that it would be in place.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it worked. It worked for the first two seasons, and then I believe you all put your foot down and said, "No, you got to write them all in advance before we record them,"
That's right.
and and then those. So missions came later, and honestly, Athena, you may remember better than me. I feel like the missions course happened before the missions stories. Is that
I
possible?
think there was so much enthusiasm about more stories that
Yeah,
we were like, all right, let's do it in a mission format. It was very
yeah.
clever.
Yeah, because there were, the learning the missions, and then came. And I think it was also the thought that Lance hadn't had, some time in the sun yet.
Yeah.
And that was the opportunity for it to be about heroes.
Athena, is there anything you want to? Wait, hold on. We've got some great. Let's see. Oh, yes, Narnia, exactly. That's Anna responding. Athena, is there anything else you want to say or ask before I move on? Because that was such a good question. Or are you feeling good?
No, I think that's good. Thank you. I've really been wondering about that a lot, especially recently as I've like continued with my studies and writing work. So thank you very much.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. All right. Let's see. Do you have a story series that you're especially proud of, David Sewell McCann, that you would consider your opus? That's also from Anna.
Not they're all, it's like you have with children or pets. They're all special in their own unique way, and so some of them were complicated. Dory Horde was incredibly complicated.
Wow.
Because it wove together all this esoteric work, all this history work, and then maintaining the characters and trying to be true to the environment and to the cultures in which they were inhabiting. And those were written at a time where we were all, as writers, kind of reviewing our relationship to writing about people that did not share our lived experience. So that was something that really a lot of work went into those stories. But the rigor I'm proud of with Dory Horde and how the story landed, but equally so with How to Be Super, and How to Be Super so important to a whole group of individuals that are now in high school and college. They still reference the How to Be Super stories, and Windward Ho the same way. And whenever you ask anybody that has listened to Sparkle stories for years and years and years, almost always they say Martin and Sylvia. It's just we really found something, I guess, authentic with our own experience that is translatable to other people's experience as well with Martin and Sylvia.
Anna has asked in the chat, I want to hear more about the Easter series because the weaving was really amazing to me. Was that one collaborative? And Anna, this is where it's in the Martin and Sylvia Easter that she's referring to. I didn't read your whole quote. So the first part of that was that how much Anna was always impressed and entertained by. Oh no, you're always impressed and entertained by Sparkle, it looks like, but the Easter series you said was magnificent. And I remember Easter being, yeah, Martin Sylvia Easter. That was a collaboration with folks in Australia.
Yeah,
Can you say more about that one?
it was a while ago.
I know we wrote that a long time ago, and there were Sparkle families that consulted with us about
Mhm.
Easter in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, and I feel like
I remember we were also trying to do a lot, with communicating the themes of Easter and playing with different hemispheres and cultures. And like that one really there was a lot of intentionality around what we were trying to create there and a lot of pieces to it.
I mean, there were three festivals that were overlapping. So it was Easter, it was the spring equinox or autumnal equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere, and then Passover. They were all at the same time, and so I think the trick was that we were trying to find less specific religious, like specific to a religion, questions on the overarching story and
Mhm.
trying to find themes that a young child would relate to in their own lived experience, apart from specific religious traditions. And
Yeah.
so, in order to do that, we needed to actually open up and talk to a lot of people about, well, how does the festival of Passover, what things does it have in common, and how could they weave in together? I think it's the Webers,
Yeah.
uh, with the experience of Easter, and Martin and Sylvia weren't particularly knowledgeable or experienced the Christian festival.
Yeah.
So they were coming more from a nature-based
Right.
experience of spring, and so were the people in Australia, but they were in autumn. So that was really like, how do you make sense of that?
Yeah.
Easter is such a spring festival, right? Well, not in the southern hemisphere, where it is a Good Friday is the big event.
Yeah.
So it was revelatory for me, Anna, just as well. So I remember really like every conversation that we had, I learned something new.
I remember being really inspired, that process being really inspired. Okay, it is 4:45, so we're gonna power through a few more questions because I'm trying to catch them all. This one comes from Stephen. Do you have any professional relationships or major influences from other traditional storytelling figures working today? Robert Bly, Dr. Martin Shaw, Patrick Ryan, Sorcha, Aaron Hegarty, etc. Can you answer that one? And that's a big question, but I'm curious to know, like, is there anybody that's
No, it's
inspired?
actually a pretty simple answer. Unfortunately, not so much. I am embarrassingly not knowledgeable of other storytellers.
Yeah.
I,
And we're
I
not super networkers either these days. Like we're so busy just in our own craft or whatever.
Well, it's a different kind of storytelling. The storytellers that you're familiar with are incredible and have honed a certain kind of storytelling that is presentational. So they're able to go to places and really capture a room, and I think they're using similar skills but to a different aim.
Yeah.
And so our practice is more like something that you would encounter in a classroom,
Yeah.
with a teacher that's working with a specific group of children when they know what this group of children needs. So they're able to create and tell something that is almost like
Yes.
delivering food rather than, it being something that will be memorable. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think that's the
Answer.
short answer is no, I don't have anybody.
Yeah, cool. Carter asked, what are the four original, meaning the first four Sparkle stories? And they are this, Carter. And Carter, thank you very much for calling out that you couldn't see them on the app. That was a glitch. They are now on the app. They were Martin and Sylvia helping out, Junkyard Tales, the cat's new home, so many fairies. Because I went back, David Still McCann, I went back and looked for our very first newsletter that we very first put out on our very first website. And
Wow.
for them, helping out, Martin and Sylvia, Junkyard Tale, Cat's New Home, So Many Fairies, Brownie and the Lost Squirrel, and Bite Thistle, Bite Thimble, The Fool's Son. And Bite
Fool's
Thistle
Son was one of the first ones.
came out a little later, but it's
Okay.
first of that series.
I love that story, Fool's
Yes,
Son.
I
That's the
know.
one that I remember the most of those of
So
the of those four. Yeah.
Sarah asks, Do you remember the fundraising? Now we're getting sort of practical. Do you remember the fundraising campaign with the Sparkle Stories t-shirts? 2014, we did a Kickstarter. Maybe do memorabilia or the progression of artwork over the years. Just saw a photo of Isaac wearing that t-shirt. We are actually looking at, I have thought about bringing t-shirts back. We actually started looking at a shop last year. There's all sorts of stuff we'd love to do. I also really love being a business that creates digital content, nothing that's going to get thrown away or, that has packaging or whatever. But we have been researching doing, I haven't even told you this, David, so I can. We've been looking at doing vinyl, putting sparkle on vinyl.
Really? Wow, that's awesome.
Curious about
Yeah.
that. If you guys have interest in that, if you are someone who wants to have Sparkle Stories memorabilia or t-shirts, please let us know because it will inspire our search. We often put it aside because our priority is the
Awesome.
story. Okay. Um, why did you create Sparkle Stories? So that's from Vivian, and I'm going to answer that really quickly. We created Sparkle Stories because, well, it came, let's see, how do I even answer that quickly? It came out of a challenging moment in which I was trying to figure out how our family was going to move forward and what we wanted to do for work with all of our gifts and talents. And I basically got a very clear picture of a business in my head. It just landed, boop, like this, that would engage David's gifts and my gifts. And I was like, David Sloan McCann, we're going to take all these stories that you've been telling the kids and we're going to put them online. And David Sloan McCann said, that's a terrible idea. It won't work. And I said, yes, it will. Give me 6 months. Do you remember that? You were just kind of like, what? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And so we did it. And I also saw that what I wanted for my kids didn't exist. Like I wanted audio stories because we were a screen-free family. And so we built it thinking it was going to be tiny, and then it took off. So that's the answer to that question. It was a miracle, really. Like it's such a gift. Um, let's see. Now, I think our last question that was answered very quickly. Everybody, not everybody, a lot of folks would like some new content. There's a request specifically for a story about a flamingo, but people are really wanting more Martin Sylvia, more Dory Horde, Dory Horde again, Violet Crown, Windward Ho. When are there going to be new stories? That is the final question we're going to land on for this, unless you all have more questions. And I can say, oh, good, everybody's got an absolutely and a yes about the fun, sparkly memorabilia. We are working on new content right now, but it doesn't come out of any of the series you just listed. Your request always helps us to know what you want more of. And it's always a conversation of like, what shall we do next? We originally came out of the gate producing at such a high rate. And over the years, that has slowed. And we really spend a lot of time trying to kind of curate our content specific to certain times of year or certain needs. But David is currently working on new stories for the summer.
Well, I'll tell you what though, I'm thinking about this flamingo. And I don't know if it's going to be an actual flamingo or another animal dressed up like a flamingo.
Yeah. Or if you throw it in the Dory Horde, it's some sort of, like representation of something that takes them on the flamingo adventure.
I'm not doing another Dory Horde collection. I'm so
They
sorry
killed
for
us.
those of you who are, that's
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
hard.
They're
Those are
hard.
too hard.
That
Yeah.
took those took a ton of research, but you can always enjoy listening to them again because you listen. They are so complex.
Mhm.
I mean, really, David did such incredible work on those, all the layers of all the stories and all the themes and whatever, and the details. Listen again, you'll hear something different each time. So is
Yeah,
that
but
that's
I'm inspired about the flamingo. I think we're gonna factor a flamingo into this next
Okay. And
batch.
we have, again, Junkyard Tales coming this summer. In June, I think we're working on for June.
Yeah.
Okay, David, is there anything else? Okay, any other last questions from anybody before we sign off and say thank you and goodbye? And David, is there anything else you want to share or talk about?
No, it's just wonderful to I love, the over the years we've been teaching these storytelling classes for a bunch of years now, and Athena, who's now in college, listened to Sparkle Stories, and then I think got in on the early end of the courses and has been through listening all the stories and then learning how to write and tell their own stories,
Oh,
and that's just incredibly meaningful to me as a storyteller is to know that the stories are not only delighting and are important to you, but are inspiring you to tell stories as well and to write and create. And because I really do believe we're all storytellers. So I hope that Sparkle Stories will continue to inspire all of you to create, tell, and spread your own stories.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Athena. That's great. All right, team. All right, team. This is the end of our time. I'm so glad you came. It's been nice to chat with you and answer questions and engage. Always feel free to email us at Sparkle2, right? Hey at sparklestories.com. Oh, look, she's, yeah, it's taken 10 years, but it's definitely inspiring. Oh, in the How to Story courses, what is the best starting point? There's another question. That's from
Depends on how
Adam.
old the storyteller is. There's courses for the young ones, of 6 to 9. There's courses for the middle ones, the mid grade, which is 10 to 13. And then there's courses for the teens, which is 13 to 18 or so. And then there's, of course, courses for the adults. There's an actual full certification process training in restorative storytelling, which is the kind of storytelling that is under all of them.
Yeah.
So just howtostory.com. You can find them out over there.
Yeah. Thanks, you all.
Okay.
Be
Bye,
well.
everybody.
We'll talk to you later.
Good times.